unconventional. We're not on that standard anymore, even though we're doing standard scoring for the unconventional. I know that's very odd. Sean, any thoughts?
Yes, this is so exciting. This week we get to talk about kickers, and it's going to be the most important piece of. Wait, what?
Kickers. What?
Oh, wait, we're skipping kickers?
Yeah, we're skipping kickers.
Oh, man. Oh, I guess that means we're going straight to our IDP series.
Yes, we are.
Oh, well, now I need new notes. I was hoping for some kickers,
You're hoping that
but
I'd let you get up in them kickers and.
that's what I was hoping for. Oh, this week, IDP individual defensive players. I I have
This is
advice.
uncharted territory.
I have
This is
advice, but this is, yeah, uncharted for me. I've never done an IDP league. This will be the first year that I'm doing it. And, you know, my suggestion is similar to previous weeks, especially that first week when we're talking about the quarterbacks. Know your scoring system. Know what stat is going to get you the most points. Be aware of that
true.
scoring system.
True that. Know the scoring system.
Yep, this week we're talking standard redraft leagues, not keeper, not dynasty, nothing like we get 20 points per sack and 18 points per touchdown. None of that. We're doing standard scoring.
Yeah, no nonsense here. No nonsense whatsoever. But
So, yeah. So
we're
this
about to get
week
into it.
we're
So,
separating IDP into three different categories. We're doing
yes, we are.
one group of top five for defensive linemen, which is a combination of your defensive ends and tackles. Our next group is linebacker. Now, that's going to be either off-ball linebacker, or you may even have some edge rushers in there because they still fall into that linebacker category. And then we also have defensive backs, really the secondary as a whole. So those are the three categories that we're going off of today. We have top fives. Ooh. You ready for my number five guy? Defensive
I'm
lineman.
absolutely ready for your number 5 guy.
All right, now defensive lineman. When I was looking through my list, I'm thinking, all right, who are the guys that can get me sacks, get me tackles for a loss, create turnovers, get some forced fumbles. And more than likely, when it comes to the defensive line, you're going to want to target defensive ends rather than defensive tackles. Defensive tackles are important, but they're just not stat producing like the defensive ends are. So unless your league requires a defensive tackle spot, it may be best to stay away and avoid that if you can. But my number five
Yes,
guy for the what's up?
I said I agree.
Yep, my number five guy for the defensive line. We're going to Minnesota. Danielle Hunter, defensive end for the Vikings. Mike Zimmer always has a good defense. He may not be able to get you the tackles, but he's going to get you double-digit sacks. He's going to create, or he may not be able to create the turnover, but he's going to get you some forced fumbles in there too.
You say going, but it didn't happen last year. Now, note, he
No,
may have a bounce back year this year, but he scared me off where I would not take him in my top 5 of defensive linemen. I wouldn't take him in my top 5 of defensive ends. So, I hear you there. Now, my guy for the number 5, it's based off a lot of potential, but I think this guy's about to break out, and it is Chase Young of the Washington football team. I hate saying that because you see the gear. I am a Cowboys fan. I don't want Chase Young to break out, but I think he will. The dude's got way too much talent to be contained.
well, you want Chase Young to break out in 15 games of the season.
Yes, this is very true. I'm okay with that. Anyways,
All
moving
right.
on to your number 4 guy. Well, actually, do you have any thoughts on Chase Young?
That Washington defensive line, that's a really good and talented defensive line. You're thinking players like Montez Sweat can help take the pressure off of Chase Ford or Chase
Chase
Young.
Young.
So, yeah, I really don't have any arguments when it comes to, I don't think, any of these IDP guys, because statistically, you're looking at tackles as one of the big
Now,
barometers.
let me put something out there. This is just standard base scoring that we're talking about. So most likely, we will not have any off-ball linebackers on this list because they have more of a difficult time to do it consistently because they're dropping in coverage. Now, note, if you are in a different league, especially NFL.com does it, and I wish Yahoo, the league that we're doing, had this alternate scoring where they have QB hits, QB hurries that you can assign points to, it would make the defensive line more valuable for your league and give it a little bit more pop than, let's say, linebackers and more importantly, safeties. But, Sean, you're number 4 guy.
My number 4 guy, Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett. And, I have him in as a keeper, at least keeper eligible in that keeper league that we're doing. And I hope we get like lots of points for helmet swinging. That's what I'm really hoping for. Just kidding. He's past that. But he is still a ridiculously good pass rusher. Now, last year,
He's ridiculously
I
good.
know, last year his stats, they didn't seem to be all the way there, but I think that may have been a little bit of
Trust
health,
me, in
COVID
IDP, he
related.
did very well. In
And
IDP, he did very well, believe it or not.
thinking he's going to get sacks, he could be a candidate to lead the league in sacks. And if he does that, he could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He can create some forced fumbles, maybe they recover a couple of them. Yeah, when it comes to Myles Garrett, I'm chasing that potential of you're going to get me that sack volume because you have Jadeveon Clowney on the other side of you.
Right.
So we're going to,
And
that
he's a
Browns
solid
defense.
run defender.
And you're thinking the Browns defense is getting better in the secondary. So when your secondary is better, that means it's going to take longer for the quarterback to get that pass off, depending on what that coverage looks like. The longer it takes that quarterback to get the pass off, the more likely Myles Garrett is to get to you. And that's what I like about him.
All right, going to my number 4 guy. It's Aaron Donald. It's my one defensive tackle on my list. And it's just because Aaron Donald's a force. He's going to get numbers. He's going to do well. He does it consistently. It's not a sporadic thing. And that's the thing people don't understand about IDP. You do have players who consistently get their points and get their numbers. You just have to draft appropriately. It's just like offense, and it depends on your scoring system.
Yep.
All right, you're number 3 guy.
Number 3 guy, we're going to California, San Francisco. We have Nick Bosa. We didn't see a lot of him last year. Injury in week 2 just wiped him out for the rest of the year. But I am confident that even with Robert Saleh in New York coaching the Jets, I think that San Francisco defense is still strong, and he is going to be a monster in that defense.
We'll get to Nick Bosa in a second. I'm going to go to my number 3, guys, and we're going to stay in the West Coast. And I'm going to go to his brother, Joey. And Joey Bosa, he does worry me a little bit because, I mean, he's still a wrecker. He does have some injury history. And apparently they have a new role for him where he's going to be dropping a little bit in coverage. So I am worried a little bit that he's not going to have that consistent pass rush ability that he normally does, or not ability, but pass rush opportunity that he normally gets.
Let's stay on Joey Bosa for a moment because he's my number 2 guy. We're staying in the Bay Area, right? We're staying with Los Angeles, the Chargers. The other Bosa brother. I like the idea of him being able to drop back in coverage. I don't think that Brandon Staley's going to do that very often to take away from the pressure he could put on a quarterback. You're thinking maybe 1 or 2 plays here and there he might be able to, but I think that's just going to add versatility, help him get maybe a few pass deflections, pass defenses in there, which, depending on your league, may be a stat that could work in your favor. So, if you're hearing about Joey Bosa dropping in coverage, that actually might be a beneficial thing. Who knows? He could pull a J.J. Watt, get an interception, run it back for a touchdown.
True. True.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, I'm going back to the other Joe, both of the Bosa brother. I'm going to Nick. I just think Nick is going to have more of that pass rush opportunity. I actually think Nick is a better player than his brother, and I think he's going to be coming back with his hair on fire, and he's going to show the league that he still got it, and he's going to be better than ever. All right, who's your number one guy, Sean?
All right, we're not leaving Los Angeles. We're staying in the Los Angeles area. Now, before I told you, if at all possible, you want to avoid a defensive tackle, but I have an exception to the rule. Why? Because this guy transcends the position. He can play anywhere successfully along the defensive line. I have the one, the only, Aaron Donald, who... Really, is there anything Aaron Donald can do? You want pressure on a quarterback from the defensive tackle position? He can lead the league in sacks. You want tackles for a loss? He can get those tackles for a loss. You want him to create fumbles? He's got you. I think the only thing he doesn't do or do much is drop back in coverage, maybe defend a few passes, intercept anything. But when it comes to his defensive line, that's not a stat that you're really focusing on. So if he gets a pass defensed, great. That's a bonus. You're chasing the sacks. You're chasing the tackles for a loss. Aaron Donald is a monster.
Here's my thing with it. If you are in a league that has defensive tackle there, Aaron Donald's value is exponentially great. But I'm still not taking Aaron Donald over the best defensive lineman or defensive end. The defensive ends just get more of an opportunity in the run game, especially with more teams playing that wide zone or those stretch running plays. Also in the passing game, they get more of an opportunity. So, with that said, I'm taking who I believe is the best defensive end in the league right now, and that's Myles Garrett of the Browns. That is my number one guy. He's on your squad. You should value him higher because he is better. And so you should be very happy to have him on your squad, and you should be starting him week in and week out, regardless of helmet swinging.
I'll start him during his bye week. Just kidding. But yeah.
So that's our defensive lineman. Me being more experienced with it, I gave a little bit of extra nuggets with it. Sean, do you have any extra nuggets you think you'd like to provide for the people?
No, I'll have more next year. That's for sure.
All right, so we're going to move this forward. Just give me one moment. But we're going to go to the linebackers.
Yeah, I think, from my understanding, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here because this is my first year with IDP, but it almost seems like your linebackers are the key to the IDP. It's like they're able to rack up all of the stats that you need.
Well, here's the thing, and it's going to sound odd. Linebackers are good to have. So here's what I'll compare it to with offense. Linebackers are your wide receivers. Defensive linemen are your running backs. Linebackers are your wide receivers. So linebackers are going to get you that bulk stats, but you can find some gems late. So the variance between linebackers is not huge, where the variance between defensive linemen is, just like running backs.
I was actually comparing linebackers to running backs. I'm thinking, looking at linebackers, No, I want a tackle machine who can create turnovers. That's what I'm looking for. So I want a guy who's going to be on the field all 3 downs. And what do I want in a running back? I want a running
Right.
back who's going to be on the field for all 3 downs. I
Right,
drew
but
the
when it
comparison
comes to how
between
the
those.
scoring happens, when it comes how you draft and how the scoring happens, you're not getting a running back late in the draft that you're going to want to start. But you can find a linebacker late in the draft that you want to start instead of getting one of these premium guys that we're talking about.
That makes sense. That makes sense. This is why you want to tune in next year as well, and I'll have more information for you.
Now, let's go to your number 5 guy.
Number 5 guy, we're going to New York, the football playing Giants. I have Blake Martinez. He has been a tackle machine throughout his career. I remember watching him in Green Bay coming out of Stanford. He would just rack up the tackles. He would get over 100 per year. Easy. Very easy. So with a high volume of tackles, we're talking about premium linebacker spot. I mean, Blake Martinez is a guy who potentially could lead the league in tackles. He has that ability.
That far.
I mean, past couple of years, he's totaled 150 back-to-back years.
Yeah, that's because of. I'll give you this. He normally gets the opportunity because he's in New York, and New York's offense keeps him on the field long enough to get those tackles. And yes, he does get the opportunity. He is a sure tackler, but if that offense gets any better, he's not going to have those opportunities. He's not super athletic guy, and believe it or not, he doesn't get turnovers, which is very odd for a guy who gets that volume.
All those tackles, not as many turnovers.
Now, for my next guy, this is all based off potential, but the potential is large, and I think that this guy is going to live up to the billing. Yes, I'm going to be a homer, but I think this guy's going to be all over the field. I think he's going to cause turnovers, and yes, I'm going to talk about Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, a rookie. I'm putting in there. Linebacker is the one place where a rookie can go, and this is where you can make that comparison to running back, where it's an easier transition for a lot of guys. Even though linebacker apparently is considered to be a harder spot to play, but a lot of guys who excel in college seem to be able to do that translation really well when they come to the pros, and it looks like Micah Parsons is already there. He really is pushing for more playing time, and like he's got that attitude and that nastiness that looks like it's going to net some fruitful rewards. He's a guy that I think you can get later because a lot of people won't be looking at him because of all the linebackers on the Dallas Cowboys.
Man, watching Micah Parsons play this preseason. Man, if he continues that into the regular season for a full 17 games, he might be higher than number 5, right?
All right, your number 4 guy.
Number 4 guy, we're going Indianapolis. Darius Leonard. Yes, he just got himself a hefty payday. But now he's got to show he's worth all that money. Right?
He does.
Got to be able to show it. What I'm always afraid of is players sign these big extensions, these free agent deals. They get that deal, and then their performance doesn't quite meet up. I think it's going to be different. Darius Leonard, though. I think it's going to be really different because he's a guy who can do it all. He is just all over the field. I mean, we're talking about Micah Parsons being all over. Darius Leonard's a guy who can be very similar, all over the field, disrupting plays no matter where it's at.
So I'm going to get to Darius Leonard a little bit later. I'm not going to talk about him right now, which tells you he's on my list of just a little bit higher. Who I'm going to go to is Roquan Smith of the Chicago Bears. I really like Roquan. Roquan started his career a little slowly, and he's come on strong. Sure tackler. He gets a good amount of turnovers going. He's got great hands. It's just the Bears are loaded on defense in terms of players. So it's just how many opportunities will he get to really be that top tier guy? So, but I really like him at the number 4 spot there.
All right, my number 3 guy. You remember when Sean said that Blake Martinez got his stats because he was on the field lots? Well, this guy's pretty similar. My number 3 guy is Zach Cunningham from the Houston Texans, and he's going to get a lot of stats because that Houston defense is going to be on field a lot this season. A lot. So, getting a linebacker on a bad team may not necessarily be a bad thing because the more they're on the field, the more they can accumulate those stats, the better it is for you. So in this case, I want the Texans to go 0-17, have their defense on the field for 50 minutes a game. That's what I'm looking for here.
No, Zach Cunningham's not on my squad. He or my top 10
Or
top
your
5.
squad.
He's in my top 10, just not on my top 5. Currently not on my squad because I don't have him as a keeper. I have other keepers, which I do enjoy. But I do think he does provide a lot of value. Again, I worry about the turnover aspect because he doesn't get very many of them. And I know a lot of people are like, well, turnovers are high variance, so you never know when they come, and this and that. For the secondary, I agree with you. For linebackers, no. There are linebackers that continuously get turnovers. I'm just saying. It's just the way it is. Anyways, my number 3 guy is Fred Warner, another guy who just got a contract out of the 49ers. And this guy has quietly been one of the best linebackers in football for the last, couple of years. And yes, Sean's going to throw it right back into me. Well, where's his turnovers at?
Where's his turnovers at?
I thought you said that these linebackers need to get turnovers. This is one he's got me on, but I still like him for the tackles that he's the opportunity he's going to get in San Francisco. He is one of the top tier guys there, and I honestly, I can only go by my feeling on this, and I know I use that analytics, but I just think that he's going to have a very supreme year this year. He's quietly just been consistent. I think he's going to blow up a little bit.
Don't worry, I'm not going to bust your balls on the turnovers. Don't worry.
So, your number 2 guy.
Number 2 guy. Someone I really enjoy watching. Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Devin White, who should have been MVP of the Super Bowl. To say that last year was a breakout season is an understatement. My mind just continues to go back to that Super Bowl, watching him all over the field, watching him do it all in the Super Bowl. I'm thinking, man, he does this pretty much on a regular basis. And that defense, it might be one of those things where it's maybe that volume like you were talking about with Roquan, where you're saying, well, is he really going to get all the opportunities that he got? Because this Tampa Bay defense, everybody returned, I think.
Yes, they did.
So, everybody returns. Will all of the opportunities be there? I mean, if it's anything like the Super Bowl, yeah, it's going to be. And this is one of the best young linebackers in the game.
Now, here's the thing. I actually agree with you in this part. I have Devin White as my number 2 guy. And here's the thing. I see him being the turnover guy. Levante David is the steady Eddie. Levante David's the guy who's going to give, that legit aspect where it's going to be solid starts, where Devin White, I see getting interceptions. I see get forced fumbles. I do see him racking up tackles. The Devin White is going to be the playmaker on that defense. Well, the other guys are going to be steady. It's him and Shaquille Barrett that are the playmakers on that defense. Now, onward bound to your number 1 guy. Who you got?
All right, my number 1 guy is someone that you have already talked about. We're going to the Midwest. We're going to the Windy City, Chicago. My number one guy, Roquan Smith, Chicago Bears. He is the monster of the Midway.
Get out of here.
He'll do it all. He'll rack up tackles. He'll get you the tackle for loss. He'll get you sacks. He'll create turnovers. He'll get the pass defenses. He can do it all. Love it.
No.
Just don't do it against the Green Bay Packers. Or do it for 15 games of the year, just not all 17.
Now I'm going to talk about someone you talked about earlier, and I'm going to take your same exact argument. You want to know who can do it all? That guy who got that contract, Darius Leonard.
He sure can.
Darius Leonard, this is a turnover machine. Year in, year out, somehow this guy's getting turnovers. And I know you said about the contract, and here's the thing, it doesn't matter. This dude has a chip on his shoulder. I listened to a podcast where the guy on the podcast was, solid dude who's known as an evaluator. And Darius Leonard added him off a tweet. This guy does not affect Darius Leonard at all, and he added him because this guy doubted Darius Leonard. That's the type of dude we're talking about, who is going to come at you on Twitter because he's got that big of a chip on his shoulder. This guy's going to be a lot of fun, and he will not be falling off. So, moving on. Now, no, with that said, do you need one of these guys to win you a championship? You do not. It helps, but there are other areas where I'd say if you're going to do IDP, invest in earlier, like defensive linemen. Personally, I'd say invest there earlier. I'd also get an impact safety earlier than a linebacker. So, speaking of safeties, though, Sean, who's your number 5 safety?
Well, before we get to the defensive backs, it's important to know that in real life, every team wants a shutdown cornerback.
True, but this is not real life. This is fantasy.
That's bad for
and there's
fantasy
no cornerbacks.
purposes, though.
We say it's defensive backs, but there's no cornerbacks on our list.
No.
So,
there are no points awarded if your guy doesn't get thrown at, right? You don't get points when you're avoided during the game. You get nothing. So for fantasy purposes, you want to focus on the safety position rather than the cornerback position, since interceptions are not a stat that you can rely on with consistency.
Exactly. You go to tackles.
Go to the tackles. Go to the guys who play. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Tackles and pass defended.
Exactly.
Tackles is defended. But without further ado, let's start it up.
Number 5, Jordan Poyer, Buffalo Bills. He is a safety who contributes in many different ways for the Buffalo defense, and I don't expect anything to change this year. I expect all of that to continue with 2021. Can he sneak in and get some sacks and put pressure on the quarterback? Yeah, they can do a safety blitz with him. Can he get you a couple interceptions? He sure can. Could he cause a few fumbles? Definitely. Does he defend passes? Yep. Can he get tackles? He should be in that 90 range this season. So, I think there's a lot to like about Jordan Poyer and the Buffalo defense.
Definitely a lot to like for him. That's why he's a little bit higher on my list. My number 5 guy is Derwin James Jr. out of the Chargers. And here's the thing. I am actually higher on Derwin James than his position on my list. But I got a problem. His injury history. And this is not like Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa Nick Bosa played a full year. He got injured, come back. Derwin James has been injured like every year, and it's so disappointing because he's a guy that you just love to watch. He is a utility knife that you have no clue where he's coming from. He could be covering in the secondary. He could be coming at the quarterback. He could be in that spy mode. He could be going over the middle. You have no clue where he's coming from, and it's fun to watch. Anyways, moving on to your number 4 guy. Who's that?
Well, we're not going very far because we're sticking with Derwin James Jr.
Oh, There we go.
His last 2 years have been affected by the leg injuries, but he's back. But for how long? Right?
Question.
In the Brandon Staley defense, he's expected to play a linebacker safety type role, which is going to allow him to be a major contributor in all areas of the game. The question is, how comfortable are you with the injury history?
Well, someone in our league is very comfortable because they're keeping him.
It's a risk, but that's what fantasy football is. There's no exact science to fantasy football.
No,
It's
there's not.
some skill, there's some luck.
All right, moving on to my number 4 guy. It's a guy who just got a big contract. I like these contract guys for some reason. And it's Justin Simmons from the Broncos. This dude's a legit ball hawk. You want turnovers, this is the guy. He's a very nice tackler also. But, I mean, he's going to get you those pass defended, and he's going to get you turnovers.
Ooh, speaking of pass defended, my number 3 guy, Cincinnati Bengal, Jesse Bates, the third. He's going to get you pass defenses. You're going to love it. He's going to get you tackles. You're going to love it. He'll get a couple interceptions. You're going to love it. Cincinnati has a little uncertainty at the linebacker position. You're going to love it. There's a lot to like about Jesse Bates.
There is a lot to like about Jesse Bates. Not on my top 5, but here's a lot to like about him. Now, my number 3 guy, there's a lot to like about too. And that would be Jeremy Chin of the Carolina Panthers. And Jeremy Chin is that hybrid safety linebacker role, and he is exactly what you want from it. Hard hitter, passes defended, tons of tackles, and oh yeah, what? He does get turnovers too. The dude is legit. He's ready to take another leap, even though he exceeded all expectations last year. He's a fun guy.
He's so fun. He's my number 2 guy. Jeremy Chin, Carolina Panthers. Everything that Sean said. And he's got to throw in some touchdowns for you, too. If he plays a full 17 seasons, he's going to get you 2 touchdowns.
Now, my number 2 guy, Sean spoke about earlier, and it's Jordan Poyer, Buffalo Bills. Again, a guy, like Sean said, get your tackles, get your pass defended, get your turnovers. This guy's going to get you a lot of points when it comes to IDP. He's one of the top guys last year. I don't see him falling off this year. All right, next up, Sean's number 1 guy.
Number 1, and I think we're going to differ.
Oh, I know we're going to differ.
Yeah, yep. He just got paid. Seattle Seahawk, Jamal Adams. After his extension, Seattle is hoping that the 2018-2019 version returns. And me calling him DB1, I'm hoping that returns too. But
can't build my team off of hope.
certainly can't. That P-word potential is very dangerous, but can he get back to having a season of interceptions, creating fumbles, defending passes? He could. Will he get you another 9 sacks in a year?
Here's my problem.
Depending on how Seattle uses him.
Here's my problem. They used him more as a pass rusher than a DB. Which took away from his opportunity to give you that DB production. And it showed with the fantasy stats. I know he got injured also, which also poses a problem. Is he going to be fully healthy, especially with the way they use him? Because you could argue he got injured because of the way they use him, taking a lot of wear and tear on that body, playing more of a pass rush role than a DB role. I worry about that. I thought about putting Adams up, but I don't trust it. I don't trust Seattle. We'll see. My number one guy, who isn't on your list either, which is very interesting that both our number one guys aren't on our list. And so, but that is Buda Baker from the Cardinals. Now, note, I know I'm not always one to bring stats from last year, but when it's potential of players who are gradually growing, Buda Baker was the top scoring IDP safety last year, and I don't see him slowing down. Patrick Peterson's not there anymore, which means he's going to have a lot more balls in that secondary being thrown out there. Even though Patrick Peterson wasn't the same guy he was supposed to be like a year ago. But in the emergence of Byron Murphy, I see Byron Murphy taking the next step. Buda Baker is just going to be so much better for him. Plus, he plays in the slot.
Yeah, he'll rack up those tackles for you, which is going to be really good for that safety position. Yeah.
So, but there's our top five for the safeties. Sean, any thoughts on this?
Take my advice with a grain of salt. It's my first year doing IDP. Come back next year. It'll probably be better advice for you.
Also, my advice, you get some sleepers, you run with it late, you never know what could happen. One of my sleepers one year was Eddie Jackson from the Chicago Bears. He had blowed up. So, as it goes. Anyways, Sean, words of wisdom.
Wisdom. Man, I'm really lacking in these words of wisdom. How about you say something? We'll see if I think of anything.
All right. So, I've been going to the gym lately. So my words of wisdom are going to go with that. If you are lifting weights at the gym and you have to use your entire body to do the lifting, you're doing it wrong and you're lifting too much weight. You need to reevaluate what you're doing.
That's right, folks. Lift with your back and your groin.
This is very bad advice.